It's poetry on ice watching him play. That's John Cooper, about the guy who put up 130 points in 76 games, 4th straight 100-point season, and 6th time in his career. His teammate Brandon Hagel called him the best player in the world, and during the 25-26 season, he ran off 95 points in 45 games, the most by any NHL player in a 45-game span since Mario Lemieux in 1995 and 1996. Lemieux, read that again. He still lost to Art Ross by 8 points. So why is he still left out of the conversation? In 2011, 57 players went before him. None of them will ever sniff a Hart Trophy. The NHL has been slow catching up ever since. Let's rewind to 2011, because this is a crime scene. NHL scouting back then ran on 3 things: size, North American pedigree, and what scouts call pro-ready skating mechanics. Check those boxes, you move up boards fast. You don't, you wait. Kucherov checked none of them. He listed at 6 feet, 173 pounds. He skates with what scouts call an unorthodox stride. He came up through CSKA Moscow and the KHL, not the OHL, not the WHL, not anywhere a North American scout had a comfortable read on. And then there was the Russian factor. This wasn't subtle. This wasn't some vague preference. It was documented, real, systematic bias baked in how the league evaluated Russian prospects. Teams had genuine fears about KHL contract holdouts, about political tension, about whether Russian players were, and this is actual language scouts used, coachable by North American standards. Here's what's wild. He wasn't hidden or misunderstood. He set an all-time U18 World Championship scoring record, 21 points in 7 games. Named the best forward in the entire tournament. Scouts reports called him first-round material. Everyone knew what they were looking at. They just didn't want the baggage that came with it. The Russian factor wasn't a scouting failure, it was a choice. 31 teams looked at a kid who just broke a tournament scoring record and said, not worth the risk. So 57 picks go by, and Tampa takes him at 58. Not only because they fully understood what they were getting, because the price was right for a high upside gamble. And here's the irony that'll hit you later. Every single flaw those scouts flagged in 2011, the frame, the stride, the style, those are the exact same things that make him completely unguardable today. So what did they actually miss? Let's break it down. The reason Kucherov is so hard to scout, so hard to defend, and honestly so hard to even talk about is because his game doesn't trigger the response we're wired to look for. Think about how you watch hockey. You track speed, you track force. You notice when McDavid shifts into another gear and blows past a defender. You feel it when McKinnon drives the net and physically overpowers someone. Your brain lights up because those are things that are visceral. They're obvious. Kucherov doesn't do that. What he does instead is remove speed from the equation entirely. He slows the game down while everyone around him is speeding up, and somehow, in that stillness, he's already made the decision before the defender has even processed that a threat exists. John Cooper said it best. He plays a fast game, but he has the ability to slow the whole thing down. It's almost like he's teaching a class. That's not a metaphor. That's literally what's happening. Every shift is a lesson in gap control and processing speed that the other team didn't sign up for. Watch him in the offensive zone. No wind up, no signal before he moves. Defenders are reacting to a move that hasn't even happened yet, and by the time they've adjusted, the puck is somewhere else entirely. Phil Esposito, Hall of Famer, 717 career goals, watched him and said this: he's got talent that he's not even used yet. That quote is from 2020, and he's only gotten better since. Brandon Hagel put it plainly, this guy's generational. I haven't seen many players like this in my entire life. And the numbers back it up. Over a 45-game stretch in the 25-26 season, he posted 95 points, the most anyone has done in 45 games since Mario Lemieux 30 years ago. He led the entire NHL in assists per game at 1.21 and was tied for second in primary assists per game. But here's what's crazy. None of that production looks like what you'd expect from the most dominant scorer in the league. There's no signature move that ends up in a highlight package, no thunderous deke that goes viral. It's a pass to a spot where a teammate is just about to be. It's a cut that opens up a lane that wasn't there a second ago. It's geometry, not athleticism. And when you stack that skill set against the best players in the world, something really strange happens. Today's video is sponsored by the Victory Hockey League. You create your own hockey player, name him how you want, pick his position, start him in the minors. Then season by season, you develop him. Fun point tasks earn attribute points you spend in game, and if you're dedicated enough, you may even grow into a Hall of Famer. With 19 years of activity and 104 seasons in, the VHL is an established hockey community. The Discord runs around the clock, hockey people talking hockey whenever you want. Link in the description. Now back to the story. Here's how the 25-26 NHL scoring race finished. Connor McDavid had 138 points in 82 games, the Art Ross winner, 6th of his career, and tied with Howe and Lemieux for second most ever, only behind Gretzky. Nathan MacKinnon, 127 points in 80 games, 53 goals, his first Rocket Richard, and the engine of the President's Trophy winning Avalanche. And then there's Nikita Kucherov, 130 points in 76 games, the highest points per game, 1.71. Look at that gap again. McDavid finished 8 points ahead, but he played 6 more games. And during a 45-game stretch in that same season, Kucherov went on a tear nobody's matched in 3 decades. The runway just ran out. These 3 players are not the same kind of player. They don't produce the same way. They don't look the same way, and the way the league talks about each one of them is not even close to equal. McDavid is measured in kilometers per hour. For McDavid, the league has built an entire marketing identity around his speed. He's a supernatural force, and that's not an exaggeration. He moves in a way no human being should be able to move on skates. When he's on the ice, you feel it. The building changes. That's real and it's earned. MacKinnon is measured in explosive power. He's relentless, physical, he wins board battles, drives through traffic, and wears down teams over 60 minutes. He's a freight train with elite hands, and he makes Colorado terrifying in a way that's immediately obvious to anyone watching. And then there's Kucherov. Kucherov is measured in efficiency, and efficiency, as it turns out, is the hardest thing to see in real time. His game is built on removing friction, on making the impossible look like a routine calculation. And the things that look routine don't get talked about in the same way. The most lethal 45-game run since Mario Lemieux in 95-96, and he still couldn't catch a guy who played all 82. And that's not an indictment of Kucherov. That's the indictment. Brandon Hagel said something that kind of nails it. If he played in Toronto, there would probably be a lot more attention. That's not a joke about market size, that's a real observation about how visibility changes narrative. Tampa's a small market. Russia wasn't allowed at the 2026 Olympics, so the world never saw him on that stage. And his game doesn't produce the kind of moment that the algorithm really rewards. It doesn't go viral, it just wins. 4 straight 100-point seasons, 3 Art Ross trophies, 2 Stanley Cups, 1 Hart Trophy, and he's still not the first name out of people's mouth when you ask who the best player in the world is. That's the underrated paradox, and the numbers make it harder and harder to defend. So let's go through the numbers, because they deserve to be heard out loud. In 25-26, his 4th straight 100-point season, 6th time in his career, he's tied with Leon Draisaitl for 3rd among most players born and trade outside of North America, only behind Peter Stastny and Jari Kurri. His 700th career assist made him the 8th fastest player in NHL history to reach that milestone, only the 3rd Russian player ever to do it, joining Alexander Ovechkin and Evgeny Malkin. The most by any player in a 45-game span in a single season, 3 decades, and nobody's matched it. Over the past 3 seasons combined, since the start of the 2023 season, he's had 379 points in 222 games. The most of any player in the entire NHL. Not McDavid, not MacKinnon, Kucherov. He's 32 years old, and during a season where his longtime running mate, Brandon Point, missed nearly half the year, and Victor Hedman missed huge chunks too, he didn't just survive, he had one of the most dominant scoring runs of the modern era. The ghost in the machine isn't invisible anymore. The numbers are just too loud now. So where does this all end up? Stamkos is gone. Kucherov runs this team now, completely. And here's the question nobody's actually having. Is he the greatest Russian player who's ever lived? Ovechkin owns the goals record. 894 currently, nothing touches that. 1 cup, 1 heart, volume scoring at a scale the game has never ever seen. Malkin has 2 cups, a Conn Smythe, and a heart. probably the most underrated Penguin who's ever played. But Kucherov has 3 Art Rosses, 2 Cups, a Hart, and 700 assists faster than almost anyone in history. As a playmaker, not a shooter, he's the most efficient point producer of his generation, full stop. But there's an asterisk that gets louder every year. Tampa has been bounced in the first round multiple seasons running now. And during those exits, Kucherov's finishing has gone a little bit quiet. Although the assists are still piling up, the goals really haven't followed. The NHL didn't forget Kucherov, it just never learned how to see him. He was a misread kid from Russia in 2011. He's the same player today. The numbers are just too loud to ignore now. He had the most dominant 45-game stretch since Mario Lemieux and still came up short of the Art Ross. He's been a Hart finalist year after year, and he's still the second name in conversations where he should be the first name in. Subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments, is Kucherov the greatest Russian player ever? And does he need another cup to settle the conversation for good?